Eastwood Clint. Behind the steely stare and unyielding on-screen persona, the legendary actor and director who rose from modest origins to dominate Hollywood has a difficult upbringing, ranging from a childhood interrupted by repeated travels to the psychological effects of early career challenges. Eastwood's journey was anything but simple. He suffered from anxiety attacks, a tragic plane crash, and the tragic death of his father, but he managed to leave a legacy as one of the most well-known people in cinema. Did Clint Eastwood's turbulent past influence the legend he became? On May 31, 1930, little Clint Eastwood was born at St. Francis Hospital in San Francisco, shocking the nurses with a heavy 11-pound weight and earning the nickname Samson. His parents, Clinton Sr. and Ruth Nay Runner, had a family tree with English, Scottish, Dutch, German, and Irish ancestry. Somewhere in his family history, Clint even had a Mayflower passenger. Later in the 1930s, a younger sister named Jean Bernhard joined the family. In an attempt to maintain a stable career, Clint's father worked as a salesman and even briefly as a detective in San Francisco. The Eastwoods moved about a lot during that decade, but by 1940 they had settled in wealthy pedestrian California. Forget about the Depression-era tales. Sadly, Clint occasionally forgets that the Eastwoods are a comfortable place to live with. A swimming pool, a country club membership, and all the benefits. Due to his poor grades at Piedmont Junior High, Clint's strength was held back, and he had to catch up with summer classes. His rebellious streak really came to the fore at Piedmont High School, where he was expelled quickly for his stunts. The obscene message written on the scoreboard, and the flaming effigy on the school lawn. Oakland Technical High offered him a fresh start. Though he could have been a good basketball player, Clint preferred solo pursuits, worked on car engines, learned about aircraft maintenance, and became so good at the piano that a friend remembers his fingers literally bleeding from practice. However, graduation was a big question mark. His teachers saw a spark of talent and encouraged him to participate in school plays, but he just wasn't interested. Records are hazy, and friends like Fritz Ems think he just left to pursue fun somewhere else after his father moved to Seattle in early 1949. However, before Hollywood, there was actual work logging in Springfield, Oregon, a stint as a lifeguard, after receiving his Red Cross certification, and even playing ragtime piano in an Oakland bar. Talk about a wild start. Did natural talent and fortunate breaks pave his path, or was destiny guiding him all along? Keep watching. Things are about to get much more interesting. Clint Eastwood was enlisted into the Army in 1951 for the Korean War, but instead of serving on the front lines, he ended up at Fort in California. His job as a swimming teacher was safe, but life has a way of upending plans. Hitching a ride back to base from Seattle on September 30, 1951, turns out to be a jinxed flight. The weather is poor from the beginning, and then things get extremely bad, with the plane's back door flying open. Clint makes a makeshift fix, but the radios and oxygen system go out. Talk about a nightmare scenario. When the fuel runs out, and the plane is miles from the California coast, the pilot is forced to abandon it because sharks are a real threat. However, Clint and the pilot inflate rafts and begin desperately paddling towards the shore, where the ocean battles the waves and overturns Clint's raft, forcing him to swim a torturous 2 or 4 miles depending on who is telling the story. This is where his Army job turns into a life-or-death situation. And keep in mind that his work as a swimming instructor might be what keeps him afloat. Clint struggles with hallucinations in the bioluminescent water, but he manages to survive, and eventually stumbles into an RCA radio station, where he meets up with the pilot, who miraculously also survived years later. Clint stars in Escape from Alcatraz. He portrays Frank Morris, an inmate who daringly swims across the frigid San Francisco Bay to escape the notorious island prison. It seems that escaping death gave Clint the grit that makes his on-screen performance. Escape is incredibly realistic, but the military life is all work. Clint has a side job at a sugar company to supplement his meager $67 monthly salary, and he also reportedly had a romance with an officer's daughter. Future TV stars from the 1970s and early 1980s saw Clint Eastwood trade in his spurs for a bad bee and the dusty plains for city streets during this time. Dirty Harry, the famous San Francisco cop who wasn't afraid to break the law to get his man, was introduced, and the theme of the rogue with a badge persisted in movies like Thunderbolt, Lightfoot, and The Gauntlet, where the lines between morality and legality were blurred. With his orangutan buddy Clyde in the Every Which Way movie, Eastwood also displayed his humorous side. This era came to an end with the terrifying Escape from Alcatraz, in which Clint demonstrated that his acting abilities extended beyond the heroes he could portray. In 1975, while filming the thriller The Eiger Sanction tragedy, A desperate prisoner named David Knowles worked as a stunt double for a few more shots of a climbing sequence. He teamed up with fellow climber Mike Hoover to finish the task, and they were able to get the footage. However, tragedy struck when an unexpected rock slide sent a bouncer hurtling towards the men as they stood on a ledge. In a heartbreaking detail, David Knowles tragically lost his life, while Mike Hoover suffered a serious fracture. One of the surviving climbers detailed the shock, stating that we flew up to that exact area, and there was the scenario that we had been faking for 2 days. The horrifying scene was a mirror image of one the crew had recorded just days earlier. The news devastated Clint Eastwood, who felt responsible for the death and was so overcome by grief that he almost gave up on the entire project. However, his crew, who understood the inherent risks of filmmaking, encouraged him to continue, believing it was the best way to honor David Knowles' memory and dedication. It was unbelievable to see Dave Knowles hanging dead on the end of the rope. Eastwood's roles changed in the 1980s and early 1990s. They were no longer merely tough. Instead, they were burdened. In Firefox, he portrayed a pilot plagued by PTSD, while in Tight RPP, he was a police officer tortured by the murderer he hunts down. In addition to facing external antagonists, Eastwood's characters also had to contend with their own inner demons. This theme persisted in White Hunter Black Heart, where a filmmaker became obsessed with an elephant hunt, and Rookie, where his fixation with a case put everybody around him in peril. This era's pinnacle was Unforgiven. Clint went back to his Western heritage, but this time he was an outlaw who was haunted by his violent past. The 2000s and beyond gave us the grumpy era. In Space Cowboys, Clint Eastwood plays an elderly astronaut who finally gets his chance to travel to space. In Bloodwork, he is a retired profiler whose health issues prevent him from hunting down a killer. However, Eastwood really rose to stardom in movies like $1 Million Baby, in which he plays a reluctant boxing trainer, and Gran Torino, in which a racist veteran finds unexpected redemption. His most recent film, Crying, continuing the concept of the sour old man, Macho portrays a weathered horseman traveling across rural Mexico. Clint Eastwood's private life is as dramatic as any movie he has directed. His first marriage to Maggie Johnson in 1953 appeared to be a sign of stability to Mark, but he was first apprehensive about getting married. Nevertheless, the domestic bliss quickly faded, restlessness set in, and extramarital affairs became a recurrent theme. The couple stayed together for a while, even welcoming their own children, Kyle and Allison, into the world. But the cracks in the facade were widening. The first result of this philandering lifestyle was a daughter, Lori Murray, born from a covert affair and placed for adoption without Eastwood's knowledge. Years later, another affair gave birth to Kimberly L. The couple's eventual split resulted from circulating suspicions about Eastwood's involvement with co-star Sandra Locke by 1979. The fallout from Eastwood's romantic decisions went well beyond the news. There have been contradictory stories about Eastwood's connection with her father. She has occasionally talked about having a tight bond and other times about feeling abandoned and irritated, even saying that she has begged for a closer relationship. The story of Lori Murray complicates Eastwood's personal history even further. Lori was adopted as a baby, and only found her biological father in the 1990s through a private investigator. Although Eastwood accepted her after she came out, it's unclear if he ever actively looked for her, or if he was unaware of her existence before then. The relationship between Eastwood and stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis started working on the Rawhide set, a relationship that reportedly lasted 14 years and produced a daughter named Kimber, though Eastwood says he didn't realize she was his at first. Later, when Sandra Locke entered the scene in 1972, Eastwood was still with Johnson, and Locke was in a platonic marriage with her childhood friend. Their chemistry began in The Outlaw. This habit of keeping his children hidden would recur. Josie Wales and Eastwood developed a passionate but turbulent relationship. Locke said that Eastwood forced her to get abortions against his will, and that their two-way relationship was toxic. While Locke was still in the picture, Eastwood met flight attendant Jaslyn Reeves. Their fling produced 2 children, Scott and Catherine, and around the same time, he met actress Frances Pfizer. Despite Locke's presence, they started a happy romance that resulted in a daughter named Francesca, but Eastwood's secret children with Reeves fell apart due to the strain of past affairs and paparazzi photos that suggested infidelity. Dana Ruiz first attracted Eastwood's attention in 1992. Their whirlwind romance resulted in marriage in 1996, and the birth of a daughter named Morgan shortly after. However, after a reality show featuring Dina clashed with his private nature, Things spiraled out of control as Dina turned to his old friend Scott Pfizer for support, while Eastwood started dating his ex-wife, Erica Tomlinson Fisher, in 2013. The marriage officially fell apart, but as one chapter ends in 2015, Eastwood fell in love with hostess Christina Sandersa. The couple has kept their relationship private and even enjoyed events with Eastwood's ex-wife and kids, suggesting a cordial maturity in his later years. Clint Eastwood's health has been a subject of speculation for more than 450 days after he was last seen in public. His last appearance was at the AT&T Pro-Am golf tournament in February 2022, which he usually attends and which is held close to his home. His absence from the 2023 tournament, in which his son Scott was competing, further heightened anxiety among those close to him. However, Eastwood allayed these rumors last month when he made a rare appearance at Jane Goodall's conservationist event in his hometown of Carsmell by the Sea. He was seen grinning, chatting with Goodall, and wearing a casual yet fashionable outfit. These photos of the 93-year-old legend show him looking healthy, with longer hair, a full beard, and a casual yet stylish outfit. He is even back behind the camera, directing and producing the courtroom drama Juror No. 2. In November of last year, he was spotted on the Georgia set, obviously involved in the work. Eastwood keeps a low-fat, high-protein diet and is conscious of his cholesterol levels, a habit he probably learned from his father, who tragically passed away at a young age from cardiovascular disease. Actor Scott Eastwood attributes his father as an inspiration for his fitness. It is evident that Clint Eastwood refuses to allow his age define him, whether he is acting, directing, or just spending an afternoon with other environmentalists. Scott disclosed that Clint encouraged him to exercise weights as a teenager and adheres to a same strict diet that emphasizes nutrients over indulgence. We appreciate you watching, and if you enjoy this video, please leave a like and comment. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell.